in your mind, like how would you, if someone came to you with the scenario, what would that scenario have to be for you to tell them, okay, I think you should go sit there in the morning and it's September 20th?
There's a couple scenarios that would do it. I think probably the best one for September 20th would be he's relatively sure he knows where a buck's bedding, a mature buck,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a storm that came in, a wicked storm in the evening and went on into the night, like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and it was going to be a calm morning. Those wicked storms, those bucks will stay hunkered down, and when they end, those bucks will get a late start and they'll get back late. And I've seen that on many occasions. The day after a storm is a good day. That's basically what I was doing when I got my biggest morning buck.
Yeah.
The storm hadn't quite ended yet, but it was about to, and I was in there, and I did have that buck coming back, but it had stormed all night, so he was up in the rain. But I have hunted many times in the mornings after a storm and had a lot of success. Not necessarily killing deer, but seeing mature bucks where normally I'm not seeing them in the mornings on those days right after a storm. The other scenario would be that the guy gives me no other options. Yeah, I work every evening. I can't hunt, so I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. Well, then go hunt. Give it a try.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose? I mean, you can't kill him sitting on your couch. Sitting in the morning is better than not sitting at all in the morning, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of don't ruin your good spots. Because if you got good evening spots, what happens is those deer will go into those mature bucks will go into a bedding area and bed an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before daylight. And they come out though in the evenings. They're just sitting in there all day. They'll get up and move every here and there within the bedding area and feed on like twigs or whatever. Like say you had a cracker or two around your bed, you're starving when you get up, right? So they're hungry, right? They want to get up and they want to eat and they want to get about their business, and they're sitting there half awake waiting. Almost always big bucks will come out of those bedding areas in daylight. They will only get so far, but they will make a move. They'll get up, they'll start moving around, they'll start slowly coming out, and then they'll get out to that 50 to 100 yards range. And what my trick to killing these bucks that are nocturnal like that has been to, I call that a safe zone. So they got an area that they'll move in daylight, right, in the evening, that they consider safe because from their bed they can monitor everything that goes on in that circle. I want to get right to the edge of that circle where I can shoot them in it. That's what I want to do. So I'm as close as I can possibly be to that bed without him seeing, hearing, or smelling me, right? Any of his senses. And in the evenings, if he's there, most likely I'll get a chance to kill him. More often than not, I'll kill that target buck if he's bedded there, if I know that bedding area well. But when I go in the mornings, more often than not, I get there in the dark and hear him crash out of the bedding area, and then he doesn't come back, and now I got to go relocate him, and I've just ruined my whole setup. So that's why I don't do that. But what I do is I'll go over and I'll hunt some remote spot that you cannot get to in the evening because of the tangle. The only tree you can hunt out of where you could kill them is too close to the bedding to do an evening hunt, and you can't hunt off the ground. The stuff's too thick. The only thing you could do is hunt in the morning. I'll go give that a shot. But those people who are saying, well, Dan doesn't know what he's talking about. You got to remember, I've been doing this my whole life, and I didn't start out not hunting mornings.
Yeah.
I started out hunting every single morning, every single evening, and hunting that way for a long time. And I found that there's certain time periods and stuff when you can kill them in the mornings and certain time frames when you can't. Not necessarily can't, but your odds go way down, and then you start wrecking areas. Just think about when you go in there in the morning in the dark. And we've all been there. You go out and hunt in the morning, right? And have you ever noticed how quiet it is?
Oh yeah.
I go out and I get set up, and I can hear every hunter for 3 miles around me. Tell you what, in the evening I can't. All the
No.
birds, the noise, the wind noise. It gets dead calm in the morning a lot. And you can't hear people for forever. And those deer can hear them too. I can guarantee you, with my hearing as bad as it is, if I can hear a guy setting up a mile from me, a deer can probably hear that from 2 miles.
Yeah.
And he'll pinpoint it to right exactly in the spot.
Yeah.
Even when they don't bed down before daylight, what I find is they come back to the area and they're hanging somewhere near that bedding, and they're going to hear you come in there.
Right.
And then another thing they do is when they come back to bedding in the morning that they do different in the evening, is they're a little leery of that bedding. I mean, they leave scent in there and stuff, and they know predators and stuff know that that's their bedding area. They circle to the downwind side, and then they go straight into the wind to that bed, and they smell the whole area. So if you're sitting near that bed, he's going to wind you. So you kind of got to get the instead of being like right over the bed, you got to be back far enough where you can shoot him before he gets downwind of you. But you kind of got to know where he's going to come from, right? And it's going to be dependent on the exact wind of the day. Like when you go to a bedding area and you look at the trails coming in and out of the bedding area, the trails coming in and out are not really coming in and out. They're coming out. Yeah. People think they're coming in and out. The trails going in, those bucks will go in a way that the wind's to their favor. So they're not necessarily on a trail. They're coming in with the wind and nose. And I'm saying this because I've watched it happen over and over again. Now, there's a lot of scenarios where they are forced to use trails, like in cattails and stuff like that. And then you can kind of say, well, okay, they're going to be on the downwind trail. And then that's a good morning setup because you can kind of pin him to the trail where the wind's blowing a certain direction, right? If you know the wind directions well and where the trees are before you go out there. Yeah.
And what you're kind of, I think what you're describing there is like the term people use is like J hooking into their bed, right? That's when they're trying to circle around and get into their bed with their nose.
We call it J hooking, but it can be just a straight line too. I mean,
right.
They're going to come in from downwind. And I have seen them on occasion, not actually J hook, but walk past downwind and then come in from a different route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I personally observed that. Different deer do different things, you know?
Yeah. That's what I was going to bring up too. You talked about it already, but just how in the mornings you always have light and variable winds, which is not good for deer smelling you, you know. And then when you're just walking into a setup, you just feel like your footsteps are echoing through the woods, almost unavoidably.
Another good reason to go right after rain because it's so quiet out there. I mean, you're quiet because you're not crunching.
Yep. And I was going to say that too with that storm tip you gave everybody. That's probably a big factor. It's crazy how little moisture will just deaden everything, you know. Plus in the mornings, like when it's dark, it's hard to put a stand up perfectly without making a little bit of noise, you know. It can be done, but it's just in the dark, naturally you're going to have a tendency to more than likely make a clink or something on accident as opposed to when it's daylight out.
I love the beautifulness of a morning. I love to watch the sunrise. I love to watch the woods come alive. I love that sharpness of the air, the cold, sharp air. But if I'm there to kill a deer, I'm doing it in the evening usually, especially early season. Now, you know, even when you look at when people are killing deer in the mornings, even in rut, how many of those deer are getting killed in bedding areas? Not many. They're getting killed in funnels. They're getting killed downwind of doe bedding areas and stuff. It is really hard to kill them around bedding areas in the morning.
If you want to watch another video, click right here. But don't forget to subscribe before you leave.